Hello and welcome to Up the Villa podcast. So today's episode, a little bit later than normal. We're going to do a little bit of a reaction to the loss against Sheffield United and then preview the Wolves game. If you're new, subscribe. We've hit 2K subscribers now, which we're all buzzing about. You know, we've all been working really hard. So thanks for supporting us and thanks for subscribing. And if you are new, please subscribe and help us grow some more. So yesterday, very disappointing match to watch. I think every Villa fan was really disappointed with the result, with the manner in which we lost as well at times. I don't really make notes on this podcast. I normally just wing it, but I have made some notes today. So there's negative and positives. I feel like we did miss some big chances in the game. On another day, if we take those chances, you know, I feel like we go on to win that game. But we said in the group chat as soon as the game kicked off that it was really sloppy. There was misplaced passes, and I felt like we didn't stamp our authority on the game at all, which was quite disappointing for me. We didn't show our quality through some of the attacking intent that we've got. I felt like we lacked creativity centrally. And I don't really like slating players or being too negative, but I just felt Elmo going forward was just non-existent for me. It just was a bit of a weak area for us. One of my bugbears in football is when the wing back picks up the ball and then he's standing right next to the winger, and it just get it in. I felt like Target was, he was getting the balls in, but again the quality wasn't too great. So I just think all in all it was quite disappointing. And hopefully we can bounce back like we normally do against Wolves. What did you make of it, Seb?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. It was just an off day all round. The thing I notice about us is when a few players have an off day, it's normally the whole team that's off collectively. It's never one or two individuals. I think you were right about Al Mohammadi. You know, normally he's known for his good crossing into the box, but last night it wasn't there. But it wasn't there from any of our fullbacks or wingers. I think we made 6 successful crosses out of 45 attempted. And I mean, for a Premier League club, that isn't good enough. The problem with me, I find that when we're down in a game, we don't draw enough games. I think we either win or lose. So that's one of our weaknesses, is not being able to grind out a result when perhaps we even deserve more. I mean, I don't think the performance was that bad. I think we've played worse and got more points out of it. So on the performance aspect, I think it was just a fact that our final ball was lacking. Like I said, the crosses into the box. Bertrand Traore had a few shots that could have gone in on another day. So I don't think it's cause for concern. You know, Sheffield United stuck to what they do best. I mean, it's something that they haven't done enough this season, which is grind out a result defensively. Yeah, they stopped us from scoring, and they did to us what we did to Leeds a few days ago. So now we're on the end of our own downfall.
Yeah, I do think we played okay. You know, we had a lot of possession, we had a lot of the ball, we had chances, like you say. But I just felt there was areas in that match yesterday that were just a little bit cause for concern, because obviously it was clearly obvious that we had all of the ball, and creativity wise it was lacking slightly. And what worried me was that Barkley was stripping off in the 55th minute, and he came on in the 65th minute. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was 10 minutes wasted where we were crying out for somebody to get on that ball and drive us forward. And for me, he's the player that should have done it. Again, Keenan came on and it was just a bit hoofball, you know, just lack of plan B. I don't really want to sound too negative, but I was just slightly concerned of our application, really. What do you make of it, Ryan?
Yeah, it's a tough one to review, isn't it? It's the first thing that I hate is this kick-off time. It's doing me head in. We always this 6 o'clock on a Wednesday. It is not good for us. And Bramall Lane as well. I touched on it on the last episode. I just do not like that ground. But we were very poor, and it was a disturbing performance, to be honest. And I'm shocked that we didn't turn up without any purpose, really, and try and dominate the game. we're in the upper reaches of the top half, so we should be going to places like that and stamping our authority. I feel the selection was wrong. Yes, I'm in agreement that you should stick with a winning side, but we're playing bottom of the league who's won 3 games all season, and I just feel the team he selected for Leeds was spot on. It's perfect. They've done the job correctly, but it lacked any creativity. We needed to pass them off the park. We needed to up the tempo. We needed to stretch them. And we didn't. We played right into their hands. And as for the game itself, it was sloppy to begin with, like you just said. And as soon as McGinn missed that chance, I'm thinking, this ain't going to be our night. We gave away the sloppy goal. McGinn and Albo, they switched off. But there was just a lack of finesse in all our play, really. And like you said, I don't think we made the subs quick enough. And then once I went down to 10 men, we played into their hands, didn't we? We was lumping them poor balls into the box aimlessly, just floating them straight into Ramsdale. It was practice for him, really. But we put it to bed and we move on. And not to sound like Lambert, we go again. And I was looking earlier. I have made some notes myself, actually. We can bounce back. Southampton at home, went and beat Arsenal. West Ham away, next game we beat Wolves. Man City away, we beat Newcastle. Burnley away, we beat Southampton. West Ham at home, we went and beat Arsenal. Leicester, we went and beat Leeds. So we are very good at bouncing back, and hopefully we can bounce back against Wolves.
Would you not put that slightly down to complacency then?
You could do, yeah. Turning up like we think we can just stroll it when we can't. We can't have that sort of attitude. No one.
Attitude gives you like a purpose, doesn't it? You're setting something that you've done wrong the next game because you feel like you let yourself down the previous game. Whereas I feel like we didn't come out against Sheffield United with that intensity. That's just a slight. I don't know. I just don't know why we do it. I feel like
considering we was only a win would have took us 3 points away from 4th place. You thought they would have come out with a bit of purpose to go and put us in that position.
I think that's the overriding frustration for me as a fan is that we let that slip yesterday. And like you say, we could have been a point behind Liverpool or whatever. Do you know what I mean? Now we've slipped further away. Justin?
Yeah, I think you're all pretty much nailed on what you're saying. I think as a team, sometimes, and I think Smith, it's probably one of his only faults, really. He's very, instead of being proactive, he's reactive, and he doesn't react sometimes quick enough for me. Like we was all saying at half-time, I think just before half-time, we all knew that midfield wasn't working yesterday. And I was praying, really praying. I almost thought, chuck all 3 of them on, chuck Louise, Barkley and Sanson on, because it just wasn't working. Nakamba wasn't having the impact he had against Leeds. Ramsey was just a little bit lost in the middle of the park, and McGinn, whilst he was always high energy, the quality wasn't there again with him. So I almost was praying that Smith would just say, right, let's go for it, let's chuck them all on. And like you said, 10 minutes into the second half, you sort of, by that point, it takes another 5-10 minutes for him to get into the game. And then when they'd gone down to 10 men, I think, by then. So then it became, like you say, long ball out to, the fullbacks, the wingers, and I think McGinn as well, who had about 20 crosses into the box. They were bypassing Barkley and Sanson. They just couldn't get in the game at all. There was nothing going through midfield. It was almost a bit like panic station. So I think he'll come off. I know he will, Smith. He'll come off the pitch last night, and if anything, if there's any positives to come out of that game at all, it's that I'm sure he's gone away and he's sat there today at the training ground. It's just reinforced what he's got to do in the summer, because that is where we are at our weakest. We without Jack, we lack massive amounts of creativity. We lack a player that can carry the ball. We know about Traore, we know about El Ghazi. They're very much, when they fancy it, they do it. we need somebody now that can come in when Jack's not there and be that creative force regularly. But you're talking a 50, 60, 70, we said it on the last podcast, big money. So I think he'll come off and he'll assess it and he'll think, we maybe did have the wrong attitude for whatever reason. Like Ryan said, we should be going there and saying we are the team going for top 6, 7. We need to boss this game, and we didn't. So it's hugely disappointing. One of the biggest worries for me is that when we score first, we win. And when we concede first, we very rarely get anything out of the game. So that's a mentality thing that I don't know why that is the case at the moment, but it just seems to be a very weird stat that's sort of progressed as the season's gone on. We cannot get back into games when we go behind. And that's a creativity thing as well. So hopefully Jack will be back Saturday and things will, and maybe even Cash and things will improve.
I mean, this sets us up for the Wolves game because we're very good when leading and they're very good when losing. That they come back very well in games, and we seem to shut games out when we do get the lead. So let's forget about that now because I can't even think about it anymore. So Wolves, they've had an offish season for them. They've been reaching European football the last 2 seasons, and they've dropped off a little bit this season. They've sold some of their best players, Jota. Their fans are a little bit discontent with Nuno as well, which I feel like is just a little bit unjust, really. I think one bad season and, they're not down the bottom, are they? They're mid-table, really. So I feel like it's going to be a difficult game. I think they've got some really good players. I think Neto's a fantastic footballer. I think he's absolutely unreal. And I think, Traoré causes problems on his day, doesn't he? So I think it is going to be a difficult game. Seb, what are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right in saying some fans are unhappy with Nuno. I think it's not about where they are in the table. I think it's about the football that they've been playing. They're having 1 shot, 2 shots every half. And I think that's what's got them so disgruntled, the fact that they're so happy to sit back and just play on the counter-attack. But the problem is they don't play on the counter-attack very effectively. So I think if we can get them in that department and perhaps get an early goal, it would help us to sit back and then ask them the questions, see what they can do, get our defence back raring like it was against Leeds.
I mean, hopefully Jack's back in some form, whether he's on the bench or starting that game. He's got to be back, surely. Justin, what are your thoughts on Wolves then?
Yeah, it's going to be a really tough game, and Ryan's hit some really good stats there with the bounce back ability, the old phrase. We do seem to bounce back pretty well after defeats. So the reaction, I would imagine, will be there. And it's a local derby. So that's another reason why I think there will be a reaction on Saturday. They won't want to lose to Wolves. It's a tough one because Wolves are having a really, really weird season. They've gone from a pretty much solid top 17 to throwing everything away and trying to reset. And it's sort of backfired earlier in the season, but obviously they've had a few pretty bad injuries. The Jimenez one was really bad, and I hope he's back fit. Not for Saturday, obviously, but after us. So yeah, they're a decent side. I think I really hope we've got enough to beat them, and I think we have, but I think mentality-wise, we've got to be on it. And I think he's got yet another big call to make with the midfield 3. We've gone from a team that literally plays the same 11 every week now to not knowing what our best 11 is. I think the back 4-5 picks itself. Obviously, Watkins picks himself and Jack plays if he's fit. The rest are still up for grabs. So it'll be very, very interesting what he does on Saturday in the midfield, because they've got they play a different type of football, like Seb was saying. They play, Moutinho and Neves has been playing pretty regularly with Dendoncker coming in as well as sort of a holder. So we've got to get in amongst them, because that's where they're probably at the, Neto and Podence as well have been very good for them. I don't particularly rate the new lad, the 18-year-old, the big money striker. And Touré's a maverick, isn't he? Who's had a pretty average season. It's going to be tough. It's going to be really tough. But I do fancy us to bounce back with a much better performance.
Ryan's obviously been thinking about what bet he's going to put on this weekend. So, what are you going for then?
Well, all depends if Jack's back, I think. But yeah, after seeing them stats, to be fair, with our bounce back ability, I'll be backing us again. I'll be backing us again,
obviously. Right, we'll go through some questions then. Mark has put temporary blip or a serious reality check. Ryan?
Yeah, I think since the turn of the year, we've been very up and down. There is reality checks there. You know, Coonan Davis, for the love of trying, is not a Premier League striker, and I don't think he will ever be a Premier League striker. And I think last night just emphasised the lack of depth we've got up front to support Watkins and give us other options up front. So, you know, that showed a worrying sign yesterday.
So Gary Plaza has put, I think it would be interesting to discuss the lineup. For me, that game needed Luis over Nakamba. Sheffield United are not as attacking like Leeds. Also, I think Barkley's needed when Jack doesn't play. I agree. I think Justin just said that obviously he's got headaches all over the pitch on who to pick about the lineup. But I just think we're probably getting to a stage now with the squad where maybe mix it up game by game slightly. Maybe one game might suit Nakamba and then another game might suit Luis. You know, we've been so structured and stagnated in picking Luis every single week.
He doesn't like doing that though, does he?
No, but I just think...
He doesn't like doing that, does he? That's something that he's never really at Villa. He just sticks with, which is great. You know, that's a nice attribute to have faith in players. But he does stick with his favourites a little bit.
I think the time has come now as well you've got to use his squad management, isn't it? You know, we're nearing the end of the season, and O'Neill was the same. O'Neill had his 11, and we always used to blow up this time. So it's about using the squad now on a game by game basis.
Yeah, I mean, that Kessler kid, I'd like to see him in there. I would. Because
you know what? When Elmo went down injured, I think it was after about 20 minutes. I was thinking this might not be a bad thing. You know, I think he did his back, didn't he? If Kessler comes on and gets just chucked in, he gets no choice. He just gets chucked in. That's sometimes how it works, isn't it?
I mean, I feel like Elmo defensively against Sheffield United, apart from the goal, was pretty sound. But I just felt like going forward, he ran himself ragged. You know, I just felt like. I don't know. I just feel like he had a bit of a shocker. We need a forward. You know, we miss Cash, don't we? Do you know what I mean? Like Cash compared to Elmo now, they're different. They're different levels, aren't they?
We miss Gilbert as well, though. I know hindsight's a wonderful thing, but you know, I can't believe that we had such a competent Premier League right back on the bench, and we've let him go. And it's just typical that he goes and scores the winner on a day that we couldn't buy a goal. And also, I think we missed Hurahan in that game. You know, our set piece specials were awful. I think I could name. Terrible. I'd need two hands to count the amount of times we weren't able to beat the first man. That's what Hurahan's good at. I mean, if he'd have been in that squad, I think we'd have scored yesterday.
Yeah, so you can answer this one then, Seb. What are your thoughts on Villa tying down some of their exciting youngsters? That's from avfc for life.
Yeah, exciting. I mean, I was quite sure that Jaden Philogene-Badis was off. I don't know if I've got that right. I've probably butchered that, but I was sure that he was off. I think there were rumours linking him to some of the best clubs in the world. I think Manchester City have been looking at him, Chelsea, United. The fact that these youngsters can see the project we're building and want to be a part of it is exciting.
Justin, you can have this one then. So Noel said, do you think Dean is going to give Davis more starts along with Ramsey?
No. I don't think. I mean, to be honest, when I was sort of not championing him his cause, but I was sort of thinking that it might be time to like Ryan was saying, there comes a point in the season where, I mean, are we going to get top four? I think it's highly unlikely now, in my opinion, unless our form really changes up quite quickly now. So we now need to start deciding what's going to happen next season, whilst obviously trying to win games. So, but I think Davis, his race is run now for Villa, especially with Wesley very, very close now to making the bench again. I think you've got to go with those two and then add another one in the summer. You know, it's very difficult, isn't it? Because Europe would have been a fantastic, but for me, looking at that, especially that performance last night, it's going to be, for me personally, I'm not sure Europe would be a good idea for us next season, because as it stands, we've probably had 2 or 3 quality players in the summer, which will make us a lot better. If we went into Europe with an additional load of games to play, that schedule, you almost, like the top sides all need almost 2 teams to play European and a full British schedule. We'd have to be looking to add 6 or 7 top players to be able to compete on all fronts. And then if that doesn't happen, all of a sudden your league form drops and you go backwards. So personally for me, ideally, I'd finish 8th, add 2 or 3 top players in the summer, then go for Europe next year. That's probably the ideal situation now.
So I have to put my passport back then. Justin McDonald.
No, I'm not being negative. Honestly, I'm not being negative. Honestly, I just think. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I feel like you're right.
Realistic,
if we got Europe
100%.
and we didn't add it, the amount of teams that bloody collapse when they got a European schedule, we haven't got the squad for it. It's
you got me excited last week though. You was like Boris, and you had the roadmap and you planned it all out. I've got hotels booked in Latvia. I have.
We've booked our flights.
Sorry.
So
you can always put them back.
Justin McDonald has put, I'm happy where we are, but losing games like yesterday hurts. Do we need to look at another quality Premier League talent for when Jack is out, or just so he can have some rest? We seem to lose structure when he's out and feel we need more options. I mean, let's talk about it to start with. If you take any team's best player out their team, they are not going to be as good. That's a fact, right? He's our best player. So when he's out the team, it shows like it would any team. So, but it's just quality all over the pitch, isn't it? We need more quality in certain areas, which when he's out...
It's a shame that the Barkley...
When he's out...
The Barkley signing hasn't come off, because I think that's what they were trying to do, wasn't they, with Barkley? He was our other Jack, wasn't he? You look at Leicester, they've got Barnes and Maddison. So generally they're both normally at it, but if one of them's slightly off, you've always got the other one. With us, it's Jack and nobody else.
Would you still go for Barkley in the summer?
Currently, no.
I wouldn't. Would you, Ryan?
I've changed my mind on that.
No, I don't think so. There's still time for him to save his season, but I think there could be better options out there, especially for the money and the wages that it's going to demand. I think there's better options.
I just think there's definitely better. I mean, Backlang, do you know what I mean? He's picking good players. Traore, I feel like, for the money, he's been really good. I think he's had a good, solid first season. So, and
that's the thing. We're amidst of a rebuild, aren't we? This is early days, and we are going to build again, and we're going to take it up to the next quality, next step of quality, and Jack's going to get the backup that he needs. To be honest,
I feel like if you
that's why I'd rather build slowly.
Mm-hmm. If you look, we're doing it right.
Build slowly. Build. Yeah. If
you look at the squad as a whole, though, the back five is bulletproof for me. That's the back five you need. It's just little areas there all over the pitch where we just need tweaking slightly. Maybe a bit more competition in certain areas. That for me, that's all. And striker wise, we've really got to assess Wesley and think, what are we doing there? Like, is he going to be pushing Watkins next season? What do you make of that, Seb? What are we going to do with that?
I'm a big fan of Wesley. I think adding one more and probably letting Davis go would be the sensible option, because then we have 3 strikers potentially with all different types of game play. Wesley's more of the hold-up striker. he can get midfield into it, whilst Watkins, as good as he is holding it up, can also run in behind. I think you were saying about the back five being bulletproof. I agree. But I think we could also do with some backup there, because I worry that if one of our main centre-backs was to get injured, I don't think Bjorn Engels is competent cover, and Courtney House does have his injury difficulties. But like you said, there's just little patches that we need to fix up.
What do you make striker-wise, Ryan?
It's been that long since I've seen Wesley play. I forgot what he plays like, to be honest.
This is the worry, though.
Yeah. So whether we cut our losses, and he's been out for a long time, hasn't he? Will he recover? I always remember Shearer getting a real bad injury, never quite being the same. So it's going to be a big pre-season for Wesley to see whether he can save his Aston Villa career.
I wouldn't mind if Wesley turned out like Shearer, though. I can tell you that.
True that. With half a leg, yeah.
Well, I think he'll be back in time to probably have at least 6 or 7 games this season, which could, for his Villa career, couldn't be the making or breaking of it, because I think they will go after a striker in the summer.
Yeah, I do.
But it was interesting when they did Chuck Davis on last night. I've been saying this for a while, that Watkins potentially could play as part of them wider players, because he stuck him out wide on the right, didn't he? When when Davis came on. So once Wesley's back, you have got that option. Let's say Jack's fit. We put Wesley as your main battering ram, and you put Watkins and Jack either side. That's not a bad front three if Wesley comes back anything like, we saw the best of Wesley the day he got injured when we was playing with that front three. So hopefully he'll come back. He'll be okay fitness wise, and he maybe try that for 2 or 3 games.
This is nothing. Well, it is Villa related, but it's not. Before the game, was anyone watching the Premier League years last night? They had Watford versus Fulham, and it was I think it was the 3rd game of the season where Watford had got promoted, and Ashley Young, oh my God, he was quality for Watford. I didn't realise how good he was at the time for them, but he scored a right banger from...
He looked like a little 15-year-old, didn't he?
Yeah.
He looked tiny when he was at Watford, like a little kid.
He was so good in that game. It was really good, to be fair. Anyway, so we'll move on then. We'll finish off. Score predictions then for Wolves on Saturday. I'll kick us off with a 1-1. Ryan?
Well, it's my son's birthday today, and he's 2. And then a couple of days after he was born, we sat down, father and son, and his first game was Blues away. Jack Grealish winner. His godfather is a massive Wolves fan, so we're going to do him 1-0.
Buzzing. Seb?
I wish I had the same optimism, but I'm like Luke. I'm going to sit on the fence for a boring 0-0.
Oh, 0-0.
Sorry.
Justin?
I'm going to lean on Ryan's statistics and say that this is another one we're going to bounce back. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Villa win.
Come on, Justin.
Let's do it. Let's bounce back. Thanks for watching. Hopefully we've touched over a lot of different points for you. Subscribe and up the Villa.
Up the Villa.